Hey everyone, welcome to my show, My So-Called Fabulous. I'm Tiffany Blackman. Welcome everyone. It's so great to talk to you today. I hope you're all doing fabulous. So we've talked about my bio, and one of my favorite things to do is to work out. I love it. I'm into fitness. So meet my guest today. My guest is my trainer, my friend, and it's like another son to me, Sam Watts. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
We've been talking about doing this for a while. So
we have been talking about doing this forever, and we finally, I know it's not Saturday when you're listening to this, but it is Saturday afternoon because you're busy.
Yeah.
You are so busy.
Yeah. I've since moving to the new place.
So let me give you a little background on Sam. So, Sam, how I met you, we have a dear friend, Robert Miller, and we both take Pilates through Stephanie Perry, and she was on here. Well, actually, she's on here. She was on here a couple of weeks ago. And Robert, I was looking for a new trainer in Fort Worth because I had a terrible back injury. And Robert said, you got to go because you need the trainer that knows what they're doing, has a kinesiology major, knows exactly what he's doing. So you were just getting started at Strength Studio here in Fort Worth, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And I guess, it wasn't as serious of an issue. Robert had come to me and we'd been working on his back issues for a long time.
Right.
And so I guess, I remember him saying, wouldn't you tell me that you wanted a female trainer? That was part of the struggle.
That's right. I forgot. It has to be a girl, but you're not a girl.
The problem is, I think most people think of strength coaches as ginormous, high T jack dudes, and
and you're not.
I'm quite the opposite.
Right. If you're watching on YouTube, he's not a jack dude at all. He's not a jack dude at all, but he is Sam. He's our fabulous Sam. So, Sam, we're going to get into that, how we all came about, but I want to talk about, you have an accent there, and it's not from Detroit or Texas. So you are from where?
Well, I'm from basically the outskirts of London, right on the edge of North London. And it was kind of where I grew up. I made my way here. Well, we have connections with TCU, but that was, if we backtrack to, how I really got here, started out as a soccer player. That was my dreams.
Was that so soccer was your sport because your dad played sport. I mean, he played soccer, correct?
Well, yeah. And, growing up in the UK, that's I guess the thing.
It's football?
It's not, even more so because, you have people that like football and baseball and basketball here, and it's soccer. That's it.
That's it. Right.
So, every, guy grows up dreaming of being a professional soccer player.
Right.
That was my dream. I always knew I was fast. I wasn't as skillful,
right.
Of a soccer player that I wouldn't have made it as a soccer player.
Right. But you were fast.
I was, and
you are.
Well, yeah, yeah. Probably not so much now, but the track came to me. It was easy in high school. I never had any problems, but I would win all my school events, and never really wanted to run. I wasn't super interested in it. Until the school events started taking up school time.
Right. Oh, that's right.
And I was like, I can get out of class.
Because you could go to track meets.
Yeah, it was, the option when it comes down to like English versus just, running, I was like, well, I'll do it.
Right.
And so I remember the defining moment for me was I won some 200-meter race. And I remember the teacher telling me, man, you are like 3 seconds off of a world record.
What? In high school?
Yeah. And I was like, man, that's really close. And I don't even train.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine?
Come to find out, 3 seconds in the sprints is just so much. It's races that.
Is it really?
Yeah. And at the time, it sounded like, wow, 3 seconds, that'd be easy to knock off. And it just.
Well, so let's back up here. So, everyone, Sam is here in America, and you were recruited. He was a sprinter, and recruited TCU, my alma mater, and so that's how Sam came to the United States. So soccer dream, competing and I think I asked you this the other day. Did you just sprint? Was it the 200 that you did?
Yeah, well, 100, 200, 400 ended up kind of being, I moved around in the sprints a lot. 100 was never my strong point, and 200 ended up really being my real best event.
And when you came to TCU, you were on the sprint team, right? There was 4 of you, the big dream team. And at that,
the relay team.
Yeah, okay, it's the relay team, right? Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, well, the whole sprint squad, out of the sprint squad, I guess, everyone runs individual races, but there is a relay team as well.
Right. Okay, so take me back to London. You were in high school and you were running in one record. I mean, you were doing extremely well.
Yeah, I had success running at the high school level, which was not very competitive. I guess the district or whatever I was in, it was not competitive at all. But it was enough to get me interested, and it was I kind of got hooked on that feeling of winning races and trying to run fast.
So, and let's look at like Aledo High School or South Lake here in the Metroplex, and Austin. It would be, Vandergrift and Lake Travis. All of those schools, so competitive. I mean, so competitive. So that is not what we're talking about in London at all. No.
Well, not where I was. Certain parts, yes.
So you see? I mean, I'm sure you see kids, of course, here in Fort Worth, that they're training for a sport and hiring trainers to do that. So what point did you start really training?
I was probably around, I think I was 15 years old when I started. We had this one coach, this volunteer coach that was, training with a few people, and she essentially took me in part of the team, and and that was all. It wasn't anything. It wasn't big at the time. There was no superstars or any like crazy. It was just a group of normal guys that were just naturally fast, and it wasn't.
Right. So at what point did you hear from the schools in the United States? Like at what point? I mean, did they reach out to your coaches? Did they reach out to your mom?
I was hearing from schools for multiple years, just never really interested me. University never had interested me. I almost made up my mind that I wasn't going to go to university, and it wasn't going to be on my radar. It never was. So I just would turn it down. I don't even honestly remember the schools that I was getting offered from. But, that happens way back, world championships and stuff. So I'd run on a couple British teams. I think the first time I came anywhere near here was the World Junior Championships, which was in Moncton in Canada. And all the coaches were out there. And the funny thing is, it ended up being guys that were running there from, Jamaica, USA, a couple, where else were a couple other, like Zimbabwe or something like that. We were all at this meet together. We actually ended up on the same TCU squad at the same time.
You're kidding.
There was 5 of us on the squad from different countries, USA included, but we were all at this one world championship. So I guess that being in Canada, a couple of the
recruiters.
It was a recruiting event.
Right. So when you got the letter or the call or whatever the case may be that TCU was interested, what was your first thought? I mean, did you say, "Nah, I'm out"? Or
actually, no. I was in, and I was in pretty quick. And the reason was because the goal for me ended up being the 2012 Olympics.
2012.
That was in London. It was London. I carried the Olympic torch from my hometown.
You did?
Yeah. And, it was just a really big deal. And, just everything lined up like it was going to be.
Okay. So 2012, had you signed on with TCU yet? No. So that was the year we were still getting ready. And that was kind of why I didn't want university. I didn't want distractions. I really thought that, I'm going to make it to the Olympics, and that was going to That was it.
My life was set.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't even have been that.
Right.
Track makes
Right.
no money, but, I figured that was the way it was going to go. And, after it, I didn't make the squad.
Okay.
So I'd end up with an ankle injury that had me out for a long time. It just couldn't figure it out. We made the Olympic trials, and I ran at the Olympic trials, and I didn't make the team.
Right.
Teams decided at the top 3 athletes at the Olympic trials. The top 3 advance onto the Olympics. So if you're not in the top 3, you don't go.
Wow.
And so I fell short of that. And honestly, I was kind of ready to finish track. Now, it was just frustrating. It was just too much of a blow, and I just didn't want to keep going.
Right.
I decided, it's just, it wasn't meant to be. It was too,
It's time to move on.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just didn't,
Right. Sure.
And then this opportunity came along, and it kind of was like almost saw it as a fresh start. The athletes that were at TCU were faster than the fastest British athletes.
Oh my goodness.
So I figured to myself, well, if I am training and surrounded by people faster than anybody that I'll ever race, there'll never be a surprise to me.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the big names in British athletics became like, I wouldn't worry. I mean, it wasn't a worry because, this guy runs 10:1 in the 100 and he is, a famous track guy in Britain. Well, my college teammate runs 9:9.
Wow.
So
Right.
it was a different experience because I'm kind of thrown into this world of sprinters that I hadn't even been around.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thought was, well, college is 4 years. I have great teammates, super fast, that would push me to the next level. The incredible facilities. And if I didn't make the 2016 Olympics, it was because, just really wasn't meant to be.
Right.
And so that was my thing. I was like, I really don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm going to do. And, let's go for Rio and we'll move. And the decision was pretty quick. I didn't know anything about TCU.
You knew nothing, right?
I didn't know nothing. I just signed the papers because
Did you know it was in Texas?
No, and I didn't really know anything about like where it was or anything about it. I just knew that, my coach had named me some of the athletes and what they had run, and I was like, I'm in. And he was like, well, what do you want to study? And I was like, I don't know.
Tell me.
Yeah, I don't know. He was like, I was like, do I have to decide that now? He's like, no, I'll just put something down and we can change it when you get here. I was like, great. And so this was probably September time, I would assume. It was later on in 2012. And so I'm talking to him. I'm like, okay, great. I guess that next August. That would be, so I guess I'll see you, next year, basically, like in a year's time when we're getting ready. And he said, well, no, we're going to bring it out in January. I was like, well, okay.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
So you did it.
Yeah.
You came on because track season's in the spring. So did you run?
Yeah, no, I started competing as soon as I was there. Yeah. So I was training leading up, and I arrived at TCU in this January. And then, I started competing for TCU straight away.
Right.
So it was kind of just based off of my own training.
Exactly.
Before I got there.
Well, and you look at the opportunity that you had with the education that you've got, and you've graduated TCU with kinesiology degree. What a blessing, right?
Right.
What a blessing. Your life has totally changed.
Mm-hmm.
You have not gone back to your home. I know your parents well, and I know it's very difficult for them, but do you love the United States?
Yeah. It's just I love it here in Texas. It's great. And I've kind of built this great network of people around me. And, I think just the great thing about the United States is the opportunities that it gave me versus staying at home.
Well, and you've told me this before, and I guess because I've not been to London, I've not traveled to the UK, it is so expensive, right? You were just telling me how incredibly expensive it is compared to Texas, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, so you have often told me going back home, it would just be a very different change of lifestyle because you've become so successful over here, right? So I'm going to take you back again. So when you hopped off the plane and you came to Fort Worth, what was your first impression of TCU? I mean, like you didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
it's purple.
I didn't know what to. Yeah, I honestly I met my coach and he drove me here, and I guess I just met up with someone who gave me a room key, and that was like, all right, good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you.
He was like, hey, if you need breakfast, there's a McDonald's that way, so you can go there in the morning. And I was just like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
And so I didn't know really where I was or what I was doing. And but we figured it out. The first day of practice came, maybe a few days later, a week later or so. Right. And he had one of my long-term friends now on the team take me to Walmart to get me everything I needed.
Sheets.
Yeah, just and towels and that.
Just throw you right in the middle of it.
Yeah. So,
but what a great place to be.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know, just because I know some of you, you've met some of your best friends ever running track and going to TCU. And I mean, again, a great opportunity and scholarship. So I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're doing now, so I'm going to take you back where we met. And of course we talked about it. I've talked about this before, my back injury, and I met you in November, December. And I think I can't even remember what year it was, 2 or 3 years ago. And I met with you, and I was determined to show you how strong I was.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I need one workout, because at January 30th, I had a surgery, pretty serious back surgery. And I was determined to show you that I wasn't a weenie.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to him, and you were very diligent, and I'm so impressed because you were very diligent with my back. I went to physical therapy. You checked in. So you have... I think I've asked you this before. With your population and demographics of your clients, do you have a lot of injuries? Are there, I know you have all age groups. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about injuries and how you work around that.
Well, it's mixed. So, I have a couple people say, you have a serious back injury. There's 3 or 4 people that I'm dealing with that really have serious injuries. But a lot of office guys have back problems, and that's like what is a kind of less severe. It's not really.
It's not chronic.
No, it's not, and it's very easily fixable. So some people I've got, there's like almost 2 different categories of injury, because what are you defining? Like if you want to define my herniated disc, fracture,
right?
Yeah, that's a totally different deal to ex-client who comes in that has I just my back locks up on me, and there's 2 different. Yeah. Totally different people.
Yeah.
And so there's so much different stuff to be considered between those 2 clients. And with I say overall, the goal is to have fully functioning joints that are mobile and strong in every direction. It's the only thing I focus on. And by doing that, pain is 99% of the time it's fixable,
right?
Because it's usually some sort of impingement in a joint, or there's something going on that isn't allowing the joint or to move freely, and that's really where I come in and find that, and that's where the kinesiology background, the knowing all about anatomy, that's how I can really determine where the issue is, because the body is so complex. we spoke about this before. I don't know if you've spoke about Benny on your podcast being here.
Benny Vaughn.
Benny Vaughn, worked with Benny as an athlete, and then obviously at Strength Studio at the gym that I worked at closely with him again, as his studio was up, his therapy room was upstairs.
Sports therapist.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, I'd often have conversations with Benny and Eric, who was my mentor and boss, about, what, they, all their input would help me structure and build like my, the system that I essentially use now. But it ends up being, like I said, it's some sort of impingement or problem. And, I was amazed the first time I went to Benny, I had chronic hamstring issues. And I walk in and it ended up being something in my shoulder.
I know, it is just crazy.
And when that happened, I was, my hamstring is hurting me. And he was like, well, it's really part of your hips and shoulders. That's the issue. I mean, it's maybe referring to the hamstring, but the problem is not the hamstring. The hamstring tests out good. And
were you going, no?
Yeah, I don't
think so. But
no.
Yeah.
But sure enough, I mean, it's all about finding the source and finding out differences in lifestyles, which can weigh into so much.
Sure.
The way people sit in a chair.
Yes.
Can, lead to, I feel like I'm always battling glute inactivity and lower back pain and hamstring tightness through people that spend all day in a chair in an office.
Well, you introduced me to Benny Vaughn, and my husband Greg's known Benny for age, and I just love him. I mean, he just, like I said, he'll just touch me and I'm healed.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So your clientele, I mean, because you are basically now a private gym. And when I go in and work out with you, it's one-on-one now. And, but when I watched you at Strength Studio, I would see you with some other clients, before me or after me. You do not treat all athletes or your clients the same. Everyone is different. Like, you're not walking in and it's Monday and we're just doing these and every single person is doing the same exercise all day long, right?
Correct.
Okay. Why? I mean, that seems so obvious, but why a lot of trainers do that? Yeah.
And I think the difference is it comes from the therapy background. And like I said, the system that you have in place, which is a rehab-focused strength training versus just something that I'm trying to do to get your heart rate up or just to get you sweating or to get you sore, which I don't think that either of those make a good workout. It doesn't take any thought to have someone sore. You could just have people do crazy stuff and people are going to be sore.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you've had experiences with trainers like that do that, and it never ends well for anybody.
No, not at all.
So what I do is more of a, it's focused on rehab, strength training, total body balance, and good ratios throughout body. So I can essentially fix impingements and fix imbalances and, grow from there. And most importantly, make sure I'm not building imbalances and issues.
Exactly.
Because that can work too, right? You can make an issue worse even by working out. Working out isn't going to fix your back pain.
Right.
If you are further, every muscle works on a joint. So every muscle manipulates a joint in some way. And so that means that we can use strength training to create rest and tone in muscles to essentially manipulate joints however we want.
Right. Yeah.
And making sure there's, pelvis tilts which cause pain in the back. Well, we need to make sure that if a pelvis is anteriorly rotated, which means forward rotated.
Right.
A lot of the time the lower back's tight or the hips are tight. The hips will be tight and the hips pull on the front of the pelvis. And as they're tight, they can move. So we need to put enough rest and tone in the back and the hamstrings that we can bring the pelvis back upright. Right. Because as soon as you've rotated a pelvis forward, the lower back, there's a compression on the
Ugh.
on your
Yeah.
lower back.
Yeah, I'm quite aware.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So everything we do is, rather than me getting into a gym and saying, all right, I'm going to trash Tiffy's legs today. We're going to do, I don't know, squat and then lunges and this and this. I need to look and I break down the ratios and I say, well, we're dealing with someone with an anterior pelvic tilt, which means the ratios need to lead more to your leg muscles that are going to act on the pelvis to cause the rotation to come back to keep it neutral.
Wow.
And that's the difference in what I do versus, just a guy that has you throwing around weight, which is great. And
They're moving.
Yeah, it has, if that's a system that works for you, then, there's my TCU coach used to say there's a million ways to roam. So some people may believe that is, even with top strength coaches, there's so much variation among top athletes and top strength coaches and what everyone's doing with their guys. And there's so many theories.
Right.
That's what science is. It's theories. And, you just get a piece of my theory, which is a lot of times, cherry picked information from lots of other good coaches. And that's typically how people form their own style.
Exactly. And, I came to you because I did have an injury and I did have surgery. And, you've trained me long enough to know. In fact, you said it last week. You said, I'd break my arm and you'd say, hey, let's go on in. I'd say, come on, let's do legs today. I mean, I'm that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to miss. I mean, it's just not happening. So you have that type of person. And I have to laugh because it's been over a year now. Greg, my husband, he has never, I cannot believe this. He's, jiu-jitsu trained. I mean, he's brown belt and he's been taekwondo, but he's never had a personal trainer. And Greg is jacked. I mean,
Greg is just a meat machine that wants to throw up as much weight as he can. And
he is.
I mean, that's all he cares about is just like more weight. Yeah. Like, let's get jacked.
Yeah. Like we always, we laugh. He'll go through this wall for sure.
Like meat machine.
He is. So we laugh because when Greg trying to make the decision, which I was shocked, he said, I think it's time to take a look. Maybe I should talk to Sam about training. And I said, you should, because Greg walked around with ice on his back and his knees and his elbows constantly. Right. I mean, you know that. Yeah. And so Greg did, he started going to you. And I remember him meeting with you and him saying to you, now this is what we're going to do, Sam. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh, I wanted to kill him. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. That's like somebody telling you how to clean a building and decontaminate. Okay. So I just can't remember. I remember that Sam, so he trained with you one time and I thought, this is not going to work. He goes, damn, that guy might know what he's talking about. Yeah. So how difficult was that to...
Well, the problem is Greg would, and still to this day, I mean, a great example, I guess, the other day he was a little dizzy and he was like, I maybe dehydrated or something. And we was about to do a trap bar deadlift, which is essentially a deadlift. It's a lift that causes your blood pressure to spike a lot.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
So I'm like, well, let's change this. We're going to move to something else. And he just load up that bar with deadlifting. So, there's some sort of give and take because, he says, I'm fine.
Sure.
I'm fine. Well, I'm just a little dehydrated. All right. Well, I load up the bar and that was the plan. And he's lifting and all right, now let's go up more weight. And, we work up to like almost 300 pounds and him just repping out this deadlift and comes into me the next day and he said, I know why I was dizzy. I was in AFib.
Right. Because he's a pacemaker.
And I was like, well, first thing I'm thinking is I need to up my insurance because I'm going to kill it.
Right.
But that's like, yeah. And that pretty much sums Greg up. But my point to Greg is that before we got here to this point where we're lifting now a lot of weight, I had him started on body weight everything.
Right.
because he couldn't move.
I couldn't be. He could not. He was
would
not
grunt.
flexible.
He would grunt to bend down. Like trying to reach down to the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I mean, you're moving like an old man.
Yes.
Back is locked up.
That did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his back is locked up. When I first saw him, he couldn't put his hands above his head.
Mm-mm.
You know, he gets like here. It's just like, so he couldn't do shoulder press. That's out of the equation because he can't even lift his hands above his head.
Right.
So now I'm like, all right, we need to start with the basics. And, you know, he was just like we wanted to half rep. You know, that's kind of just like the old school.
Oh,
just how much weight can you throw up?
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And the first time I told him, all right, well, we're doing a bench press, and I loaded up 95 pounds. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to do full rep bench presses and superset that with a push-up. And he's like, 95 pounds. 95, you know, the dude that benches 300 pounds.
Right.
Or had it done.
Right.
But I'm like, I mean, you can't move your arms.
Right.
It's not like, that's not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is not just to throw up a number. The goal is strength through range.
Yes.
Is flexibility and mobility are often confused. Mobility is strength through range, whereas flexibility is a muscle's ability to relax for range, right? So that means like, you know, like you should stretch your hamstring. It's really about losing a rest and tension in your hamstrings, and that's how you stretch.
Right.
But what we're talking about is keeping tension under range, and that's what he didn't have.
Right.
He wasn't strong for range. He had a small rep range where he could lift a lot of weight. And that was what I wanted to change. Right. You know, very strong in a small little power band at like the good, you know, the easy parts of the lift.
Right.
But you go beyond that, you know, you go all the way down in the squat, and all of a sudden he can't even get down in the squat.
Right.
He could half squat, but he couldn't even bend down. And we're past that now. You know, that's the start. That becomes the start point. Is I had him doing bodyweight squats.
Right.
He just didn't want anything to do with it. I'm like, you can't do it. I mean, you had him holding on to a TRX.
Right.
Gripping on for his bare life because he couldn't get down in the squat.
But now he's fluid.
Yeah, and now he's starting to move well, and
which is incredible.
But I'm dealing with trying to reverse years and years of just meeting out.
Mm-hmm. You know, and Greg, like myself, we have always been gym rats. We have always, I mean, that's part of the attraction with us, and we have always done that. And I have my way of, you know, like I feel like even if I'm sick, you and I've had this discussion, my back being out last week, you're like, Tiffy, you need to rest for a week. And of course I'm immediately going, no, I can't. I'm going to get fat. Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, you were explaining to me that you need to rest because I'm 6 days a week. I mean, every day, up early, not sleeping, you know, so that mindset for Greg and I, it's tough, right? So you're dealing with that.
Yeah.
Do you have the same thing? For example, you have former NFL football players that you train. Do they have a mindset, or is it they have you been used to trainers and they trust you?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think just coming from the athletic background, well, the football guys, you know, they're from hardcore backgrounds, so they work out hard, but you quickly understand the importance of rest as an athlete because you just don't make it. If you're not sleeping good, eating good, recovering, you just break down. But that's what happens to anybody.
Right.
So that's the point that, like, we spoke about. You work out, damage muscle tissue. And, you know, even joints and bones break down when you work out, when they're put under stress, small fractures in the bones. And how do you rebuild that? You know, that comes from diet. That comes from adequate rest. So what happens when you keep training and you're not eating enough protein and you're not getting enough rest and your body doesn't have the ability to fully repair itself? You are constantly going to be breaking down joints, breaking down muscles, and that's then you end up getting injured because that's the rest is the most important part. And I say it to everybody. You know, you work out. Everyone will show up for their workouts and work hard. I don't have
Right.
Anybody that won't really work hard when they're there.
Right.
And that's the hard part done. Now just don't go and eat a Big Mac and go to sleep and stay hydrated, and that's it. It's easy.
And you bring up something that I really want to touch on, but I do want to talk about girls and working out, but diet is so important. I work for the beef industry, and I do consume, and you've seen me. We've had this an honest discussion because I do eat meat. I am definitely a meat eater. I love salads too, but when you have scanned my body with a state-of-the-art scanner at your facility, my physician scanned my body as well, and you both told me you are not consuming enough protein. And I'm like, yeah, I am. But you and I have had this conversation. You've seen me when I've gone out to eat and what I eat. I just don't eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
And it's catching up with me.
Right.
And I wonder if has something to do with my injuries.
It absolutely does.
It just makes me sick. I
mean, that's eating right, sleeping right,
it's part of it.
I mean, it's everything.
It is. And protein is so important. And I know there's animal-based protein and there's plant-based protein, but protein is so important. And I'm learning. I've always known it because I've just eaten it. I mean, it's just not been a question. But the amount, I remember you and I having the discussion of, what are you eating when you go home? Oh, I have an egg. And, some sauteed scale and a cup of coffee. It's not enough, right? It's not enough because as a woman, and I'm not stereotyping women because men could think this as well. I think I'm going to get fat.
Right.
Now tell me why I'm not by eating what you tell me to eat.
Well, okay, there's a few points to that. So one reason why you wouldn't get fat. Well, we'll go into this.
If you ain't getting fat, so.
You're not going to get fat. You get fat from eating too much of the wrong stuff, not too much of the right stuff.
That makes sense.
You can't, here's the thing is you can't overeat protein. The reason is because protein works on certain hormones and enzymes that are appetite suppressant. Essentially, whereas what happens with carbs and sugars causes a huge insulin spike. Now, what insulin's released from the pancreas and it spikes in the presence of blood sugar to break that blood sugar down. Something that type 1 diabetics can't do. The reason they inject insulin so they don't get hyperglycemic. Right. There's a whole another subject. But what will happen is your body will always, there's some things it doesn't do great, and sometimes long-term benefits are sacrificed for short-term fixes. So your body sees it has a ton of blood sugar. It releases a lot of insulin to essentially break that blood sugar down. And then your insulin plummets and drops. So what happens is your body says, oh, my insulin's too low. It's lower than baseline. Crave food, crave sweets because I need to get my insulin up. Right. So you crave and then you feel, oh, I'm hungry. Well, you're not hungry because the body can go for so long without eating. Right. I mean, you can fast for so long without. Sure. You're not really hungry. You are being signaled that you need to eat because your insulin is low. Right. So people eat more and blood sugar goes up and insulin goes crazy and you get on this up and down insulin roller coaster, which just causes you to try and snack all the time. Oh, I need a snack. I'm kind of hungry, but I just want to have some little bit of crack as well. You've eaten carbs and you've caused a blood sugar spike, and now your insulin's gone up, and in 2 hours you're going to be hungry again. Protein does not work. Protein will cause a small blood sugar spike, but not anywhere near the amount of a carb. Right. So I am, it's mixed for all the people. I'm team no carb. I don't think you need to eat carbohydrates. And again, I don't want to get too far into the science, but baseline insulin without causing insulin spikes throughout the day controls so much stuff. Fat loss included is in that category. So you eat more protein for a few reasons. One, to repair the damaged tissue from working out and grow more muscle. Two, it helps suppress your appetite.
Yes.
And three is because protein can increase your metabolism. So more diet, if you have more food coming from protein, essentially your metabolism will speed up.
Wow.
And I am always for the throw on muscle. I'm always in the throw on muscle group. Which you hear that as a woman, you're like, oh no. The craziest thing I hear is, oh, I'm different from every other woman. If I just lift, a little bit, I get so muscular. Well, that's what everyone tells me.
Yeah.
Like women, the like this
tiny.
big.
Yeah.
Oh no, you don't understand. I'm going to be so muscular if I start lifting. I'm like,
kind of like an office.
Yeah, no.
Look off in the way.
Yeah.
And Sam, I've told you this before because people will say to my face, okay, I don't think I'm a big one. I don't think I'm a big. So people will say to me, what do you do? Oh, I work out. I strength train 3 days a week. I do Pilates 3 days a week. Oh, well, I can't strength train because I'll get big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I strength train 3 days a week, 365 days a year. And I don't think I'm big. In fact, I am at that age at 55. I'm having a difficult time keeping my muscle according to our scans. So
Correct.
what do you say to those women? Because I think it's just women. Is that right? Am I wrong? And yeah, for the most part.
Most part.
Yeah. What do you say to these women? I mean, it's just not true. Or is there a woman that you work out and you jack up?
I mean, your genetics dictate so much.
That's true.
And if you are not jacked before weight training, you are not going to be jacked after weight training.
Right.
In fact, the muscular women that I train, I don't even train really muscular women, but the more muscular women that I train, they look like they're in high school.
Right.
Like they've always been kind of more muscular and had more definition. You can manipulate certain aspects, but to completely change a physique is just not going to happen. You don't take a guy like me, lifting weights 4 times a week in college or as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And from my freshman year to my senior year, 4 times a week on an extremely intense workout plan. I gained like 10 pounds through 4 years. Would you think that?
10 pounds of muscle, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
you would think
I'm a small guy.
Right.
I'm never going to be 250 and jacked.
Right.
Not without the help of, I'm sure if I took enough steroids, I could get there.
Sure.
Now that's another
another
thing.
podcast.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. But it's just not going to happen.
Women have so much less testosterone than men.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like 10 times less.
Right.
More so, 100 times less in certain cases. And so people see, and it's often compared to like the women bodybuilders.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Who, number one, are just really, they weren't ordinary women walking around before. They've been big, muscular their whole life. They've always been big, and that's how their body is. That's genetically they, will hold a lot of muscle.
Right.
But there are things that you can do to manipulate it, But most times women, you may gain a small amount of muscle mass, but muscle is very dense. It's not, you don't just do bicep curls and they grow out. Muscle is very deep and dense, and it's not always going to be like super visible, especially in women who have higher percents of body fat.
Right. Right. And when you do the scans, and I do them, periodically with you. And the first thing, and it is a flaw. The first thing I look, and you've taught me how to, we've done 4 scans probably, since you're at the new facility. You've taught me how to look differently, because the first thing I look at, you corrected me. I was saying body fat, and you said, no, you look at your weight first.
You look at your weight first.
Right. Because I'm like, oh
wow, I've gained 3 pounds.
Right.
And I'm like, hang on, you've lost 5 pounds of fat.
Right.
You've gained, 2 pounds, 2 pounds muscle, whatever,
Yeah.
But look at it that way, or like, oh, I've lost 5 pounds of fat. I've gained 7 pounds of muscle. So your 2 pounds actually that you gained or whatever came from muscle mass versus fat loss.
Right.
And that's part of the problem is people get on the scales are like, oh my God, I'm gaining weight.
Exactly.
But the only thing that I care about is body fat.
Mm-hmm.
That's always controllable.
Right.
In fact, being really fat is not genetic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people may hold more.
Right.
Depend on their parents.
Right.
But that's something that can be changed always.
Exactly.
And the part of the thing that I look at, and it's one example that I always give, is that muscle is like an engine. And when you look at it, if I had a Ferrari and I put 10 gallons of fuel in a Ferrari, and then I had a Prius and I put 10 gallons of fuel in that Prius, and I had them drive side by side at just, 40 miles an hour, which one will run out of gas first? It won't be, they don't run out together. It's the big engine Ferrari that is burning more and more fuel doing the same tasks, because muscle takes a lot of energy to run. It's great for buffering sugar. And all in all, the more muscle you have, the more energy it takes to run that. And so what does that mean? That means that you can burn more fat just by having more muscle.
Right. Wow. That's incredible.
So that is the focus for me, is I'm not worried about how much muscle you're going to put on, because your body will dictate that. If you're eating well and you're sleeping well and we're doing the right amount of stuff in the weight room, your body is going to go to it naturally what it needs to be at muscle wise. It doesn't just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you're ginormous. It doesn't happen.
Right.
Your body gets to this threshold that it wants to be at. And that's would be your kind of optimal amount of muscle mass.
So Sam, in the aging process, so being 55, it's more difficult for me to make muscle and to hold on to it. Is that correct? I mean, because that's just aging.
Everybody is losing muscle. Everybody's protein is breaking down, and muscle is being lost at all times for everybody.
Right.
That's why even if someone that's, trains as a teenager, gets to 20, takes 3 years off of lifting weights, they don't retain the muscle.
Right.
They don't retain the proteins. The muscle is lost and people lose that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So muscle is always being lost. And as you get older, it just is lost at a faster rate.
Ugh. Yeah.
So the goal then starts to become, like with Greg. Greg's a big guy anyway. But the goal is hold on.
Hold on to it.
Just hold on. Like I don't, may have some clients that's like put on muscle. Some people, just want to maintain where they're at, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, as it gets older, the stuff that I would be doing if I, run a young guy through Greg's program, they would get bigger.
Really?
Oh, yeah. With the volume that I do with Greg.
Because the aging.
The volume that I do with him.
Gotcha. Because he lifts a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of volume. And he can take it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we worked up to that point.
Right.
I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is they get into the gym day one. It's like, how hard can I hit this every single day?
Mm-hmm.
But long-term growth is, the only way to make long-term programs sustainable is by certain progressive overload workouts.
Right.
Where you start to build volume over time, and you have deloading weeks where you back off and give the body a break, which naturally, I'm not training professional athletes right now. So everybody takes deloading weeks, and I just tie that into, oh, we're going on vacation here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
It's perfect. Like, or if people aren't taking vacations, there'll just be weeks where, the weights are slightly held back. And a lot of times that it propels you to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
But, over time, volume goes up, it'll take a dip, and goes up, takes a dip.
Right.
And I showed Greg kind of the plan, and that's when he was in. And we're at a point now where his body, and I'm happy where his body and his joints can safely deal with that, because that's a big thing. A lot of people jump in, oh, I'm going to just do this much weight. But you have to realize is that you have like your joints have capabilities of what they can take. It's not just, how much can I lift?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can lift this much. Okay, maybe, but your shoulder joint is taking a beating and your rotator cuffs aren't fully developed to a point where you can bench press this much. And so
Right.
you're going to cause problems.
Right.
And
right.
I think that's the biggest issue with, people that just go into the gym and just try, and certain trainers that may be just trying to just bury people all the time
Right.
because people are under the influence that is a good workout.
This is true. Right. Like if I don't have pain and if I'm not
Yeah.
sore, that wasn't a workout.
Like, oh my God, I'm sweating so much. Like I'm so sore the next day. This guy's great.
Right. Exactly.
He's great until, you're in the hospital and you're having shoulder surgery and,
Right. Right. Yeah. And Greg's being 66, I believe. And he, he's been doing this his entire life, just like I have.
Mm-hmm.
So your 66-year-old male or female going into your gym, you wouldn't start out like you would with Greg or I,
Absolutely not.
It's a progression, like you said.
I mean, training history and training age is everything,
Mm-hmm.
and training history.
Right.
Greg has a high ceiling because he's very strong and he's always worked out. So he had this high ceiling to get to.
Right.
Some people don't have that.
Right.
And it's a much longer process.
Right. So back in addressing the food, because when I was competing, I've told you this a few years ago, I competed for a long time in fitness competitions,
Mm-hmm.
and I ate so much food. Now, the trainers that they had me on different types of diets, but I ate so much food, but I worked out twice a day, every day, and it was, I didn't get fat, but I didn't, not one trying to say, I did not get big at all. In fact, I lost a lot of weight during that time. When I leave you in the morning, I see you early in the morning, and I go home and I do now eat 3 to 4 eggs. That's what I have in the morning.
That's
and
good.
Or I eat half a pound of ground beef or something like that. I really do. And I don't get big. In fact, during that week, when I tell you that I am actually going to do this, I actually lean out more. So what are you telling those people that the old me that has avocado toast and a single poached egg? What is that doing? Because because I'm not hungry at lunch.
Right.
Like I'm full. I
Right.
mean, my body's full, just like you said. So how do you convince people, you and I both have a friend that's interested in training and she's so worried about consuming protein. I mean, how do you convince?
Yeah, that's the hard part because, when I tell people, well, okay, Tiffany, you need to eat 120 grams of protein a day. Well, let's break that down in what that looks like.
Yeah.
For 120 grams of protein, well, I don't know, let's say that 4 ounces of beef is 25 grams.
Right.
So what would that be?
Yeah.
16 ounces or so, or like a pound of beef a day.
Right.
Which probably is not, and I'm giving beef as an example. Beef is the most energy dense protein we could eat.
It absolutely
it's
is.
the top.
Right.
Well, then let's break that down as chicken. So 4 ounces of chicken may be like 20 grams of protein.
Right.
So now you need even more of that.
Right.
Or you go further down into the plant proteins, and now all of a sudden you need 6 massive meals a day to hit that.
Right.
But what people don't realize as well is there's certain aspects of bioavailability. Just because you eat 120 grams of protein a day, it does not mean that you are absorbing 120 grams of protein a day. Bioavailability is everything. It talks about, bioavailability is what percentage of those nutrients are waste.
Okay.
Because it's not the same. 1 calorie is not a calorie.
Okay.
And, I could get, I don't count calories. Counting calories does not, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work. Because if I tell you, okay, every day I want you to be on a strict ketogenic diet, 1,500 calories a day, or 1,400 calories of McDonald's.
Oh, dear. Right. Yeah.
I mean, so if calories matter, then
That's true.
then you would say, oh, well, the 1,400 calories at McDonald's would help me lose weight.
That is, oh my goodness. That's true. I mean, what are you consuming for those 1,400?
Correct.
Okay.
So you start to look at stuff and how it's absorbed and how, that gets into more advanced nutritional science.
Right.
Beef being the most, I use beef as an example all the time because for the women that I train, it's very easy for me to say, okay, just 4 ounces of beef.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right.
That's all you have to eat, 4 ounces of beef. And that's more of I can do that. I need 4 ounces of beef. It's not that much.
Right.
But they're getting this big chunk of protein in that otherwise it's really difficult to get. I mean, you have to eat a lot. And it's something that takes time being able to do. And we're fortunate to have that body scanner so you can really see it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And the equipment that you have in your gym is so incredible. I mean, it's so incredible. It's so, I almost want to say it's joint friendly, it just smooth and glides so very well. I mean, the equipment and picking out and selecting the equipment, how did you determine what to purchase?
Well, I mean, I've worked with a lot of different types of equipment, and so you kind of know the big names, the big brand names. Another consideration for me was space. It's not. It's a big space, but it's not huge. I'm not just unlimited amounts of equipment. So I started looking at certain things. Rogue, for example, and they have very, I guess, their racks and the stuff that they can do is very like multi-purpose equipment. Right.
So it's very space saving.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, we can do this on this one, we do 10 different things from this one little thing. And, so that's kind of the way I broke down the gym. But like I said, it was all just the best of the best equipment. The $18,000 treadmill, that is a therapy treadmill.
Exactly.
It's soft joint. I mean, it was just, I was really fortunate to be in a position to where I could.
So what is your plan? I mean, are you thinking, I know you've just recently brought in a massage therapist for your clients.
Correct.
Because that's necessary.
Right. It comes into the recovery part of the equation. You're breaking down muscle tissues. We're causing problems. Nobody is injury proof in any, even conservative workouts. You're never injury proof. So you always need the outside help and maintenance. It's really important, especially, people that like I said, yourself train 3 times a week. You have to do a lot to maintain a body that is being beaten up 3 times a week in the weight room. Right. 3 times a week in Pilates. Right. And that's 6 times of just, getting beaten up. Well, how do you
recover?
Yeah. Sleep, eat well, and massage or soft tissue therapy can help if you're in pain, things like that. But that comes under the recovery side, which is super important for, getting everything out of the workouts. Like I said, the working out is the hard part. Right. People just need to, if you are working out, but you are not eating good and you're not sleeping well, you're wasting, you're not wasting your time. You know what I'm saying? Right. If you finish the gym and then you go to McDonald's and then you go home and then you're drinking beers and you stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning and then you wake up at 7 the next day and you go and work out. You've just wasted. That's such a
counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything.
Exactly. So, can you believe where you are right now?
No.
Did you ever imagine that you would, and I know your clients, I know several of your clients, you have built a community, you've built a friendship and a family with Watts Fitness, of course. Can you believe it?
It seemed to be really quick. And I guess I'm in with a group of people that, when it's go time, it's go time.
Yes.
A lot of the people that I trained didn't get where they were today by kind of being indecisive and sitting thinking on it. It's a lot of guys that are just, will move on opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been so fortunate that I've met the people that I have. It's,
Right.
it could just the difference of meeting one person that, everybody fell in line from, one or two people that had reached out to me. And, I guess they say you're a product of, you're an average of everybody you hang out with. So
That's true. That's true. That is very true. I remember you telling me after you graduated TCU, I mean, what do? You were hoping to get a medical cells, right?
Right. So when I didn't make the Rio Olympics, then that was the point where I was like, okay, well, what am I going to be doing? And I looked at medical sales. There was immigration issues with the work in. Right. It wasn't, immigrants can only work in specific fields, and I guess sales is considered general.
Okay.
So that was why that didn't work out. So I went into personal training.
Right.
And then, started at the bottom and had to, add people.
Yeah.
So build people up.
I remember you telling me that you would go to Walmart or somewhere and get a loaf of bread.
Yeah. Well, I had no people. I walked into a commission-only job.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it took me a couple months to get the first.
Sure.
But, then it seems crazy that was, not 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Hey, I was one of the OGs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You was in the first punch.
The beginning. So when you didn't make Rio and you just, okay, so medical sales was not the option. So take me back to because fun fact, everyone, you were at one point the fastest man in the world, right? Is that so? At one point, what were you running? Because I have a point here. So what you were running at TCU, and you ran, and you were the fastest, right? So what?
Yeah, so I was the world leader in the 200 meters indoors in 2015, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were the fastest
for a little while.
Yeah, for a minute or two. Yeah. You woke up and then someone took over. But
I think it was like 8 days.
Wow, that's great.
Whatever.
So when you say I'm going to Rio, and then you have this mindset as an athlete, how is the mental part of being an athlete? Because you had an injury. With not making London, and then the injury, then you didn't. Was it an injury?
For Rio,
right?
That year I was running with a hernia.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
I couldn't get the hernia fixed because the idea was, it was like, do I get the hernia fixed? Do I go and get that surgery, and then do I take the time off that was needed, or do we just try and manipulate the training and keep going? And we decided the time off was going to hurt me more than the restrictions that we put on the training for the rest of the year.
So you were that athlete that said, okay, I'm done. And this now is a new goal. And this is training, and this is what I'm going to do. So you could do that, but a lot of athletes can't do that.
I struggled a lot.
Did you?
Yeah, because I went from, one of the top athletes in the world to being some dude working in a gym with no clients. And I was just it was just like, all right.
That's tough.
You're just a nobody now. You're out there just.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
you're somebody. But I understand.
You know what I mean? I was just, people were like, what do you do? Well, I'm a trainer with no clients.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I was essentially a desk assistant.
Exactly.
At a gym.
Exactly. But look at you now. Oh my God.
Yeah. It worked out.
Yeah.
But, it's a hard transition. A lot of athletes and a lot of friends of mine that have been professional to you restart your whole life.
Oh my gosh, right?
That's why the degree is so useful.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people come out and then they're like, okay, well, been a professional athlete, and now I'm starting with zero job experience.
Right. Exactly.
And that's a hard, that's a risk for people, employers.
Yeah.
So what do? Like a lot of professional athletes finish and they don't really know what they're going to do.
Right.
And it's hard to watch your sport. You see, I watched World Championships, Olympic Games. Oh, there's that guy was racing.
Oh, my stars. You see people that
that guy won a bronze medal. Yeah, he was.
You ran against him.
I ran against him in college.
Wow.
And this guy's doing this, and they're on TV, and
Yeah.
have these multi-million-dollar deals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Right.
sitting at the front desk of a gym.
Again, look at you now. And you're here in the world of, there's so many opportunities.
Correct.
I mean, just you got this fabulous degree and your career's on fire. So
yeah, it's going great. And I'm hired a massage therapist, and we have another trainer coming in who is a professional athlete, and he's getting ready for the next Olympic Games. So
he'll be a training agent.
He will be coming in and he will be training people in the gym a little bit outside of his training, because he's focusing on the Olympic Games. The main thing he's going to be doing is dealing with my online training, which is we're getting underway. Mm-hmm. Because now I'm fully capped. I can't see anyone else in the gym, but I could still I have time to write programs and develop online programs that people can take to their own gyms. So they're not going, so they're going into the gyms and they can apply all these principles of progression. And, like at the start, we were talking about how muscle can manipulate joints, making sure that has been done correctly and you are on a program that is tailor-made for you versus, oh, this dude is really jacked, so I'm just going to do exactly what he did because if that works for him, that should work for me. It's not like that.
Right. And you know what, Sam? And I'm quite certain there's people listening to us right now or watching us that are thinking, great, this is fabulous. Good for you. You work out 3 days a week with a top trainer. Good for you. I can't afford that. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited because I have friends that are actually doing this with you. I'm so excited because it's an affordable way to...
Correct.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a huge price difference.
Right.
Yeah. And so you're offering that. So that's what we say to the people, reach out to you. And I mean, that's great because now you have...
Well, there's an app with videos and it walks you through the workout. You just have to do what the app says.
Right.
And there's a messaging software, it built in. So
sure.
Oh, hey, I'm stuck on this. Well, that's the new trainer's role. He's coming in to fulfill that. So, very qualified as well. I mean, kinesiology degree, certified trainer.
So when someone signs up for online training, is it necessary to see them?
You can. Yeah. I mean, I mean, if you don't necessarily always have to. Mm-hmm. Very often, I'm having back pain. I'm having this. This is my injury history. Mm-hmm. And I'm already like, okay, I know what's...
Right, yeah.
But that's just the thing that's come with experience of being a trainer.
Right, exactly.
You hear the same things all the time. Oh, I have this. Oh, okay.
Yes. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you because you have kept me out of a lot of pain. You've coached me quite a bit in the years that I've known you, and I just love you and your family, and I appreciate you so much.
Well, I'm happy to help. That's been one of the most rewarding things from being a trainer is people getting started as a trainer. You think that people are going to be so excited about, I dropped 5 pounds. That's what you think. Everyone's going to come in and being like, oh, I was just really excited about losing fat or gaining muscle.
Sure.
But like the overwhelming, I'm like, hey, man, you lost 5 pounds. No, but I know, but my back feels so good. Like
right.
That's what people say, it's until you're living without pain after having chronic pain, you don't realize how good it feels to not be in pain.
Amen. And my brother-in-law sees you, and he has had chronic hip pain for a long time, and he's so happy. I mean, he's so happy.
I spoke to him recently, and he said during quarantine, he's like, I had no pain.
Is that incredible?
And it's been years.
Years. I've known him over 10 years.
I worked with him for 3 months.
Yeah.
It was a simple fix. Mm-hmm. He was telling me, I've been going to this physical therapy center downtown where I do this or do this. And, it's not really.
That's not doing the trick. Yeah. I mean, it's
if you've been doing it for years and it's not working, then it doesn't work.
Amen. Isn't that the truth? Oh my gosh. Okay. So how can we find you on social media and then your website for Watts or just Watts Fitness, WATTS?
WattsFitness.com.
Okay.
We'll have the links to everything.
Okay, great.
Information and pictures about the gym and
it's
what we're doing. And we're getting the online store ready so people can order there.
Yeah.
training online and get paired with the new guy, the new trainer, and partly me will be overseeing all of the online programming. So
you're busy.
Yeah.
You are busy.
Yeah.
Remember sitting at that desk?
Yeah.
Now you're not.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you so much. It took forever to get you up here, but I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and talk a little more science, though. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you're all doing well and feeling well. And hey, keep moving. And please, everyone, keep being fabulous.